Will artificial intelligence make universal basic income necessary? Probably. Can universal basic income be implemented without a significant number of problems? I hope so. I am absolutely not against universal basic income. I just think that if universal basic income is implemented at a federal level based on how irresponsible and how incompetent the federal government can be in relation to the whole Earth's geopolitical situation and the spectrum of local governments and how those are affected federally and how local economics is affected locally and federally. I personally think that if universal basic income is going to happen without a lot of economic and uh, other problems that might relate to coercion or lack of freedom, so on and so forth, it will probably be better if universal basic income is implemented more at a grassroots level through crypto UBI or nonprofits that are maybe perhaps networks or collectives of credit unions, some sort of bank account offering institution that also could be involved in cryptocurrencies and equity trading such as ETFs and investing and so forth. Perhaps these could be funded on a local or state level, through grants and whatever. Basically, my thought is that to the greatest degree possible that a universal basic income could be distributed, decentralized, and grassroots, the least amount of chance there is for it to cause significant problems, whether those problems are economic or socio-political or so forth. I've talked about this idea and written about this idea some. I still believe it. I also think the chances of there being a federal political will for universal basic income is likely only to happen due to some horrible crisis. And if some horrible crisis happens, our problems may be a lot worse than a universal basic income can solve and fix. Also, the chances of some crisis like that happening, specifically where universal basic income would be a likely solution, are relatively small or very slow moving. Now, artificial intelligence and automation, in one sense, are going very quickly with regards to adoption and how fast the technologies are spreading and being utilized. On the other hand, there are many industries that are slow to change and that are resistant to change. So, for rather forward looking individuals who have talked about AI and automation and job displacement, while perhaps in 2025 some job displacement due to AI is already happening, I've heard estimates that perhaps in the next, 3 to 5 to 8 or 10 years is when things might really start to change. Perhaps in the next 4 to 10 years. And it is my hope that the change is fast enough to benefit everyone quickly, but slow enough so it does not cause huge problems, whether those are social or economic upheavals that are very problematic and quick and sudden and jarring. So, my point is if we can try to add some prevention rather than just solving crises, that seems ideal. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Yes. Also, if we have a federal universal basic income tied to the US dollar, that in itself might be somewhat problematic. Perhaps it might end up being some sort of central bank digital currency, CBDC. That can have lots of problems. If you look at how money is tracked in China and how if people do not, behave in ways that are compatible with the powers that be, their digital currencies issued by the government can be locked or they can be stopped from purchasing things. All purchases could be monitored, so on and so forth. That's my understanding. But hopefully, we can avoid such things in the United States, a country that values maximal freedom and hopefully personal responsibility. My point is that I don't think a federal universal basic income is very likely, and if it is, it's probably because bad things are happening, which we don't want to have happen, and therefore simply to implement some sort of crypto UBI or grassroots UBI through networks of credit unions or some sort of financial trust that has big endowments or investments that are distributed to verified individuals. Now for crypto UBI, think Gitcoin passport, but perhaps there is another alternative to that. Anyhow, these are just some thoughts on universal basic income and how that might play out in the next 1 to 10 years, whether it's through some sort of semi-private or public or decentralized solution on a crypto UBI could be done on an international level potentially, or whether there's some sort of other grassroots way of implementing it through state or county or local measures, nonprofits, credit unions. I'm very much for a voluntary consensual UBI that still hopefully protects people's privacies. So perhaps XMR Monero would be a good way, a good method, a good route for implementing universal basic income, or perhaps Bitcoin Cash smart contracts, a federal UBI with fiat United States dollars. It just doesn't seem like there's the political will for a little while or a long while. And then there's potentially lots of unintended consequences due to more government dependence and more government control. So that's my point. Food for thought. I support freedom of thought. Think for yourself, think critically. Support UBI, support prosperity, support abundance, support post scarcity, limitless peace.